Jai Radha.
Akashvani. Good morning, Akashvani.
They're on mute.
Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Yasodhanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yasodhanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Shri Radha Madhava Ki Jai Shriman Bhagavatam Jai Govinda.
So, Ananda Bihari Prabhu, is it possible for you to pull up the verse and share your screen to the other Zoom participants? Because I'm using my phone and my computer.
Yeah, I can do that. What verses are we doing?
It is 11, 20, 27 to 28.
11, 20, 27 to 28?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
So I chose this verse because it's part of the theme of today's retreat. And I was asked to inspire devotees. That was basically what I was asked to do. Come here and do a workshop that would inspire devotees. So I find this verse one of the most inspiring verses in the Srimad Bhagavatam in terms of just dealing with our humanness. Because our humanness is a huge obstacle, maybe the main one. You agree? Being a human being is kind of like a problem. Conditioned soul tends to be a problem. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 So I'm not expert at giving classes that are this short, so I think I'll just read the verse. Is that okay?
Yes.
Otherwise, we'll get cut off in the middle. You can go back to the verse because I don't, that's my source is on the board.
You see the verse? Did I get it right?
Yeah, that's the right verse. I can basically say, I can read it off the phone. Okay. Jata Shraddha Mat Kathasu Nirvina Sarva Karmasu Veda Dukha Mukam Kamam Parityage Pi Anishvaraha. tato bhajeta mam prita shudhaloa rudha nishchaya Jushamanas chitan kaman tukodharkam chugharhaya. Let's just go straight to the verse. Okay. Having awakened faith in the narrations of my glories, being disgusted with all material activity, knowing that all sense gratification leads to misery, but still being unable to renounce all sense enjoyment, my devotee should remain happy and worship me with great faith and conviction. Even though he is sometimes engaged in sense enjoyment, my devotee knows that all sense gratification leads to a miserable result, and he sincerely repents such activities. It's kind of a contradiction to be happy, isn't it, when you're failing, which is basically what that verse is saying. You're failing, but you're happy. Yes.
Our understanding is that the success is that Krishna is pleased.
Yes.
Our criteria for external achievement may or may not be there, but we're doing our humble best.
Yes.
Krishna says.
No, that's true. There are many statements like that. The problem is when we fail, we don't feel successful. This is also talking about not just I tried and nothing happened, but I tried and I fell, which is like, so one thing, I tried and nothing happened. At least I tried. So this, I tried and I slipped and I went backwards instead of forwards.
But are we trying to please Krishna or are we trying to do something else?
But I did something that didn't please Krishna.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's what it's saying. So like, anyway, we'll read. It's interesting.
Okay.
No, what you said is absolutely true.
Prabhupada told us.
Which is, this is getting into the nitty gritty of like real failure, not conceptualized.
Didn't know this.
Objectively, like you crashed. You crashed the car. It's broken. Okay. In the beginning stage of pure devotional service is described here by the Lord. A sincere devotee has practically seen that all material activities lead only to sense gratification, and all sense gratification leads only to misery. Thus, a devotee's sincere desires to engage 24 hours a day in the loving service of the Lord without any personal motivation. The devotee sincerely desires to be established in his constitutional position as the Lord's eternal servitor, and he prays to the Lord to elevate him to this exalted position. The word anishvara indicates that because of one's past sinful activities and bad habits, one may not immediately be able to completely extinguish the enjoying spirit. The Lord here encourages such a devotee not to be overly depressed or morose, but to remain enthusiastic and to go on with his loving service. The word nirbina indicates that a sincere devotee, although somewhat entangled in the remnants of sense gratification, is completely disgusted with material life and under no circumstances willingly commits sinful activities. In fact, he avoids every kind of materialistic activity. In other words, he's saying, obviously not willingly committing, but accidentally it may be. If not accidentally committing them in the mind, thinking about them. The word kaman basically refers to sex attraction and its byproducts in the form of children, home, and so forth. Within the material world, the sex impulse is so strong that even a sincere candidate in the loving service of the Lord may sometimes be disturbed by sex attraction or by lingering sentiments for wife and children. A pure devotee certainly feels spiritual affection for all living entities, including the so-called wife and children, but he knows that the material bodily attraction leads to no good, for it simply entangles one and one's so-called relatives in a miserable chain of fruitive activity. The word dridha nishchaya steadfast conviction indicates that in any circumstance, a devotee is completely determined to go on with his prescribed duties. Thus, he thinks, good. So I wrote, this is the prayer that I love so much. And I wrote Ridan Anarash and I said, where is this from? Like, because it's in quotes. It's the devotee prays, quote, like, so who's praying? And he wrote me back, he said, as far as I remember, this is from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So, you can say, this is the prayer of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, taking the role of a conditioned soul. So this is the kind of balance of how you can be enthusiastic, even in spite of your own weakness, or sometimes even engaging in non-devotional activity. The devotee thinks, by my previous shameful life, my heart is polluted with many illusory attachments. Personally, I have no power to stop them. Only Lord Krishna within my heart can remove such inauspicious contamination. But whether the Lord removes such attachments immediately or lets me go on being afflicted by them, I will never give up my devotional service to him. That's another contradiction. I should be discouraged. I've been a devotee for 50 years and my heart is full still of contamination and sinful. I should be pretty discouraged. And here he's saying, no. I'll discuss this later. I will. But whether the Lord removes such attachments immediately or lets me go on being afflicted by them, I will never give up my devotional service to him, even if the Lord places millions of obstacles in my path. And even if because of my offenses I go to hell, I will never for a moment stop serving Lord Krishna. I'm not interested in mental speculation and fruits of activities, even if Lord Brahma personally comes before me offering such things. In other words, it's like, I could want them in my mind, but when they actually come to me, I don't want them. It's just, the mind, what the mind's like. It's got nothing better to do than think about sense gratification. But the devotee is saying, even though this is going on, if it's offered to me, I wouldn't take it. It's crazy. Sometimes the mind thinks of something, and if it shows up, you run away. Sometimes. Hopefully it doesn't show up. If Lord Brahma personally comes before me offering such engagements, I will not be even slightly interested. Although I am attached to material things, I can see very clearly that they lead to no good because they simply give me trouble and disturb my devotional service to the Lord. Therefore, I sincerely repent my foolish attachments to so many material things, and I'm patiently awaiting the Lord's mercy. And one more paragraph. The word prita indicates that a devotee feels exactly like the son or subject of the personality of Godhead and is very attached to his relationship with the Lord. Therefore, although sincerely lamenting occasional lapses into sense enjoyment, he never gives up his enthusiasm to serve the Lord. Another contradiction. He's failing and he's enthusiastic. If a devotee becomes too morose or discouraged in devotional service, he may drift into an impersonal consciousness or give up his devotional service to the Lord. Therefore, the Lord here advises that although one should sincerely repent, he should not become chronically depressed. One should understand that because of his past sins, he must occasionally suffer disturbances from the material mind and senses, but one should not therefore become a devotee of detachment, as do speculative philosophers. Although one may desire detachment to purify one's devotional service to the Lord, if one becomes more concerned with renunciation than acting for the pleasure of Lord Krishna, he is misunderstanding the position of loving devotional service. Faith in Lord Krishna is so powerful that in due course of time, it will automatically award detachment and perfect knowledge. If one gives up Lord Krishna as the central object of one's worship and concentrates more on knowledge and detachment, one will become deviated from one's progress and going back home, back to Godhead. A sincere devotee of the Lord must be sincerely convinced that simply by the strength of devotional service and the mercy of the Lord, he will achieve everything auspicious in life. One must believe that Lord Krishna is all merciful and that he is the only real goal of life. Such determined faith, combined with the sincere desire to give up sense enjoyment, will carry one past the obstacles of this world. It's a long purport, so we can stop here because, yeah, this was the main topic I want to discuss. So when I first read this verse, one thing that first stood out was that this verse is saying that a devotee has, or for us, it's an instruction, should have a consciousness which separates my sincerity and conviction and determination from what's happening externally. Because here it's saying the devotee can be a failure, but internally he's completely determined, which seems to be kind of opposite. Because generally when you fail, you become discouraged. If you fail enough, most people just like, okay, what's the use? And probably trying to control your senses is going to be the most difficult thing you'll ever do. Probably easier to become the president of the United States or defeat the Russians in the war than control your senses. That's the most difficult. So naturally, when one begins bhakti, that's where we fail most regularly and often. Right? Control, especially in controlling the mind, controlling desires, because these are all conditioned desires. They've been there for millions of lifetimes. You become a devotee. They don't just go away. As Rabindra Sarup said once nicely, Prabhu, he said, when you decide to become a devotee, your mind doesn't decide to become a, your mind doesn't go along. You've decided. So this is really what this verse is saying. The you, when he's saying, but I will never give up my determination. Who's speaking? It's not the mind. Because the mind is saying, let's go out and have a good time. Or let's do this and that. The soul is speaking, I. It's distinguishing the I and what I want from what the mind is telling me to do, or even what I sometimes do, how I slip. So this is important. And then he says something interesting. He's saying, well, maybe it's Krishna's arrangement that I have all these desires. I can't like really do anything. They've been cultivated. They're there. You know, like I've worked on this stuff for millions of lifetimes. I mean, they're like, this is what I've been doing since I came to the material world, cultivating pride, cultivating, nurturing my mind to see how I can exploit anything and everything and everybody I see. And so he's kind of expressing like, as a bit of a helpless position, like all I can do is like depend on you. Ever try to control your mind and it goes exactly and towards the thing you're trying not to control? Like there's I was in India once with Sridhar Swami, and we were driving back to Juhu. This was probably 1983. We were driving back to Juhu. And there's a big famous Swami giving a talk in a park. He goes, I got to show you this guy. We got to go see him. So, you know, park the car. You know, there's hundreds of people in the park. And he said something, this was 1983, that I still remember. I don't have a good memory, but it just stuck out in my mind. He said, if I told you tomorrow morning when you get up and when you start to do your meditation, before your meditation, if I told you, don't think of a broom, what would you think of tomorrow morning before you meditate? A broom, right? And that's why it is said, don't focus on your fears, because if you do, you'll go in that direction. We tend to go in the direction towards the things we try not to think about, because how can you not think about something you're trying not to think about? As soon as you try not to think about it, hello, guess what? You're thinking about it, right? That's just the way it works. So that's kind of his mood, you know. I'm coming here full of material desires, trying to control my mind. It's going there. All I can do is put my hands up in the air and say, Krishna, I'm on your time frame. Like how purified I become, it's a bit out of my control. I can only make the effort. That's all I can do, but I can't produce my own purification. I try to chant as purely as possible, for sure, right? But what else can I do? At this point, the purification, it's out of my hands. I can only make the effort. So he's saying, okay, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm just going to make the effort. But I think the most important thing he's saying is, but whatever happens, it's not going to affect my determination to become a devotee. So my determination is something that I have control of. These material desires, they're coming and going, you know, it's like, you know, okay, it comes. I work on my mind. Okay, let's get rid of it. Like the Buddha say, as the thought comes. Okay, so we can, you know, as easily as it comes, as easily let it go. But sometimes it does a U-turn and comes back again. Sometimes it's just like in an endless loop. So, okay, I can try to control that. And I should strenuously, as Krishna says in Gita, strenuously try to control myself. But I'm at your mercy. So he's saying, like, whatever happens, whether I do it well or not, it's not going to affect my determination. So one time a devotee wrote a letter to Prabhupada, and this devotee had some problems. And he was, you know, when you have problems, when you fail to execute principles properly, it's pretty discouraging. It's just a fact. It is. We become, primarily, we become discouraged with ourselves. I promised myself I was going to do this, and I failed. So it's kind of like I'm losing trust in myself. Can't even trust myself. I make a promise and I don't do it, right? Which is one of the, it's really as a side point, when you make a vow and you follow it, it builds integrity and it builds self-trust. It builds confidence in yourself. When you break it, you lose confidence in yourself because you have actually promised yourself, just as if I promised Champaka that I'm coming here and I don't show up, she's going to think Mahatma's like, he's really whimsical. We can't trust him. So it's the same thing with ourselves. I promise myself and then I don't follow it. And then I lose trust in my own self. My power diminishes, right? So it's discouraging. How many times have you promised yourself to do something that you haven't done? Sometimes you just give up. You don't make the promise anymore. It's like, I can't do this. Why should I promise? So what's being explained here, as far as my personal analysis, is that my desire to become Krishna conscious is distinguished from my ability to do it. Because my desire to be Krishna, I can control that. For sure I can control that. And that's why it's so encouraging that in Nectar of Devotion, pure devotional service, it's described as Anya Abhilashito Shunyam, not your service not being motivated by material desire. It doesn't say you don't have desire. It says you're not motivated. Now, something interesting. The word sincerity. If you search this word on the Veda base, sincerity, what basically comes up is this is the qualification for bhakti. That and lolyam, greed. Basically two things. Not any material qualification, but you have a sincere desire to serve the Lord, and lolyam, which means you're anxious. So the naturally question is, well, what does sincerity mean? This verse of Nectar of Devotion, one's service should not be motivated by a desire for liberation or a desire for material gain. That's Prabhupada's description of sincerity. In other words, I'm going to serve Guru and Krishna for one reason, to please them. That's it. And if I do that, I'm engaged in pure devotional service, even though I have a storehouse of material desires, a warehouse actually, that I've brought. But I don't go to that warehouse when I engage in devotional service. I go to my heart, and in my heart, I say, Krishna, I want to do this to please you, even though, I've got so many desires. And even though I'm envious, or I'm greedy, or I'm resentful with so many things, but I don't bring that into my service. I bring only my sincere desire. And so the devotee is saying here, like, whatever I am, whatever I do, I sincerely regret, I sincerely repent, I don't like it. You ever have reoccurring thoughts, sometimes persistent thoughts that you don't like envious thoughts, which are some of the most troubling thoughts, right? Or whatever. Desire to exploit, enjoy. And now you're a devotee. And every class you hear is, that's not bhakti. And it comes up. It's quite discouraging, isn't it? And for many devotees, when they're in this loop, at a certain point, they throw in the towel. They say, what's the use? This devotee is not saying that. He's saying, whatever happens, I and my desire are distinct from what's happening externally, and I will never give up. That's really important. Because that way, you can remain inspired and enthusiastic in spite of the difficulty. And in fact, I discovered this long ago. Question will be asked, how you're telling me that when I have difficulty, or if I fall or break one of the principles, I should be enthusiastic. He said, that doesn't make any sense. How could I even be enthusiastic? Because I'm disgusted with myself. And I thought about it, and I thought, at that time, you're on this cusp of what's the use? Who cares? Like that's what's going on, isn't it, in your mind? Especially if it happens enough, who cares, right? So if I am not enthusiastic about my bhakti at that point, I can easily get pushed over to the other side of the fence of who cares, right? If I'm enthusiastic, I'll push myself to the other side of let's keep going sincerely, as this devotee is saying, let's keep sincerely serving. Because Prabhupada said, if you follow the principles enthusiastically, Maya can't touch you. And so flip it around. The opposite is true. If you don't, Maya can touch you. So as Ridanandamarsh is saying, a devotee should not become morose or depressed. Morose or depressed transcendentally is different. He's referring to tamagun, mode of ignorance. I'm morose. And so once we enter tamagun, then Maya says, oh, good, got you. Just where I want you. You have lost your enthusiasm. Once you lose your enthusiasm, then what do? You give up your desire to serve. And you just think, I can't do it, it's too difficult. So in that situation, if I'm not enthusiastic, then I'm finished. I have to be even more enthusiastic when I'm facing difficulty. Now, you may know this, but whenever successful people are interviewed, say, what's like the one thing? They always say, I never gave up. Which implies I had 1,000,001 reasons to give up. Like if you try anything, not just devotional service, if you try anything and you want to really do it well, there are going to be lots of reasons to give up. You have that experience, we all do, isn't it? There's going to be so many reasons, right? But the ones who never gave up, they were successful. So we can't give up devotional service. Utsahan, enthusiasm, is the first principle. We have to be. Rupa Goswami says you have to be enthusiastic. So if you allow anything to undermine your enthusiasm, then what happens? And you can justify it and say, but I can't be enthusiastic because A, B, and C. I'm a rascal. I did this. I think like this. I've tried and I keep failing. But if you undermine that enthusiasm, you have nothing left. There's no energy. And Maya's job, this is the way I think essentially we can say Maya's job is to destroy your enthusiasm. Basically, because once she destroys that, pretty much you are now her servant, isn't it? She has you, right? So that's why I say no matter what happens, you have to get up more enthusiastically. Now, we're going to read later in the retreat, we're going to read some verses and some things that Prabhupada said in which it becomes evident that difficulty and obstacles, they're actually necessary. This struggle, this up and down struggle is necessary because when you fall, you reflect, you're remorseful, you reflect, how did I fall? How can I prevent that in the future? What was going on? And you become stronger, ideally. You become. Because why? Because I will never give up my determination no matter what happens. Because I want you. How can I go on even though I'm weak? What else is there? What other choice is there? What are you going to do? When you give up, what are you going to do? One devotee was doubting that he could be Krishna conscious. So he said, Srila Prabhupada, can I become a pure devotee? You ever think like that? You ever doubt that? Like you do an inventory and you go, oh my God. I don't know if this is going to work for me. You know. So he asked that question, and Prabhupada said a simple answer. He said, "Yes, you are in the process." In other words, the process works. And then Prabhupada said, "But it will take some time, patience." And so that's Rupa Goswami's point. Because if there's not patience, you can give up. I heard one business person say that most businesses take about 3 years to start succeeding, and most people who start the businesses quit in 2 years. Because they don't know that. They don't. So it's like you come to Krishna consciousness, you think, oh yeah, and in a year I'll be a pure devotee. And you don't know. It doesn't work that way. So after a year, you can become discouraged. So your expectations have to be, of your advancement have to be reevaluated, yes.
There's a story. You ever hear of Curie de Ars?
You have to come.
Oh, you can bring.
Patron saint.
Or just
Thank you. There's a patron saint of France called the Curie de Ars. You ever hear of this? Joan of Arc and Curie. He's the curé. He's the pastor of a little town called Ars. Very famous guy. They would line up for 2 miles to go to be confession for him. Like he was a very powerful and faith-giving person. And Satan would tempt him. And at one time he was taken in his mystical trance into the storehouse Satan has for all these desire seeds. We have the Bakulat, the beach, and then there's the weeds that choke out so he goes there and he says to the devil, what is that big pile of seeds over there? I'm not going to tell you. In the name of God, you tell me what that is. He said, well, it's the seed of despair. But why do you have such a big pile of those? I'm not going to tell you. In the name of God, you tell me. Okay. Because it works so good. I have so many of those. They discourage the devotees when the seed of despair. I love to throw those in the heart, to choke out the bucket of the beach. So the curé de Ars says to him, what is the weed killer for that seed? I'm not going to tell you that, In the name of God, you tell me. I command it. You thank God for whatever happens. And you say, Lord, how can I serve you under this circumstance? So it's kind of an interesting, Prabhupada says, example is higher than precept, exactly what you're talking about. And others have Krishna has shown this to other people, that there is an impediment, that we lose heart, we lose enthusiasm. And then there's the reflex is, okay, thank you, Lord, for this. How can I serve you under this circumstance? Kind of an interesting story.
Yeah, oh, thank you.
Glories to Prabhupada.
There's a,
I think, you
there's
know,
a,
the Curie Doors?
now we know.
The secret plan of the enemy.
There's a prayer, or there's an instruction. Came from a Christian. Don't pray to God to make your service easier or life easier. But pray to God to give you the ability to deal with the difficulty. So we're going through difficulty. Krishna, can you make it easier? Or can you just get rid of it? That's natural. What about praying, Krishna, can you give me more strength so I can deal with it? Beautiful. Same idea.
Rabbi,
Yes.
Rabbi Gilberman used to give class. You know Rabbi Gilberman? He has an interfaith seminary. He ordains interfaith ministers. If a Catholic boy wants to marry a Jewish girl, they won't do it in the church. So he would ordain. He used to do right here in this room, give the class. And he was 95 years old, and he retired. And he said, I was praying to God, give me strength, give me strength. And the Lord said, you're not doing anything. Why should I give you strength? So then he came back and did his ministry again. He's a funny guy.
Yeah. So in line with what you're saying is the okay, obstacle is good. Sometimes I need to make a mistake, because if I don't, I never can improve. Right? So therefore, we'll read this verse later. The demigods say the obstacles form a ladder. With each obstacle you're becoming stronger, and therefore you're walking on the obstacles back to God. What a beautiful idea. And then Prabhupada said, sometimes Krishna will send obstacles because he sees that you need them. So it's similar to what you're saying.
Prabhupada said failure is a pillar of success.
Yeah. And there was one philosopher who his observation was that human beings best learn through failure. There's certain things human beings cannot learn unless they fail. So you make the effort, you fail, then you learn. So don't do it that way. So many of the senior devotees, when they're giving you classes, they're basically just describing their failures. Like by saying, this is how to do it, meaning I didn't do it that way in the beginning. Now I know. So we might seem like we're really smart. It just means we failed a lot, and we became smart by failing. You become smart by the failing, basically. Yes.
You're saying that there's this experience that we have of when we fail, then getting like depressed and losing enthusiasm. I feel like what happens to me is something different. When I think I fail or don't do as best, I don't lose my enthusiasm or determination. I feel like I actually in some ways get more determination, but maybe I also lose determination because what I experience is I then get very like upset, depressed, like at myself.
Yeah.
Like that like, oh, like I'm failing. And so that gets me down, but then I just like get hard on myself. Like, you just need to try better. You just need to try better. You just need to do more. You just need to be hard, like try harder. You just need to like be more sincere. You just need to give more. You just need to give more, give more, give more, give more. And recently my spiritual master gave me the instruction to be balanced and to give to others in doses, to not overdose, because that's my perpetual thing. Like of like overdosing on trying to, like, I literally get like sometimes anxiety when there's like a room full of people, because I feel like I actually have to like serve each and every person and become best friends with each and every person and help each and every person become a pure devotee. Like that's like the kind of pressure I put on myself. So it's sincere, it's enthusiastic, but it's so then when I get an instruction from my spiritual master to be balanced and to not overdose in my compassion, that's very difficult for me, because I feel like, oh, but I'm somehow like going to decrease my service if I do that. So how do does that make sense what I'm saying? Like, how do I?
One first part, you just reminded me I was going to say something I didn't. So this devotee wrote a letter to Prabhupada how he was failing. I don't know specifically what it was. And Prabhupada's first reply was, that's normal. Which is because we don't think that way. That's why we're hard on ourselves. No, like failing is normal. So when I was a very young devotee, maybe the second year, a godbrother told me that Prabhupada said, it's going to be very rare that my disciples for their whole life will chant 16 rounds and not break any principles. And I thought, that's crazy. He couldn't have said that, because at that point, I'd been a young devotee and I didn't find it difficult. I mean, I was living in the Brahmacharya ashram, really did have a chance not to chant 16 rounds and not follow principles. But as time went on, we saw, it started to become less common than I thought for people to perfectly follow and never have any difficulty. So when devotees would write Prabhupada with difficulty, they'd say, well, that's normal. Like, we're regretting whatever it is that we've done. Said, no, it's normal. It's what you'll have to go through. So your question is more specific. So one thing you said is hard on myself. So that's, red flag there. And someone will say, no, you should be hard on yourself, because if you're not, you'll become apathetic. You won't do anything. Well, there's good hard and there's bad hard. So is the hard inspiring you, or is the hard discouraging you? Are you, is it because you don't beat yourself up? You don't go up generally by beating yourself. You beat yourself down. You're so bad. You love yourself up, you beat yourself down. Generally. Right? So then people say, well, if I'm to love myself and I fail, then I'll become apathetic. That doesn't logically follow. If you're not an apathetic person, you won't be. If you're a person that is determined, you're not going to become apathetic just because you become easier on yourself. You're just going to be, like they say, treat yourself like you treat a kid. So you think of yourself as a kid, to be a little more kind upon yourself and realistic expectation. It's not like people don't have independent free will, and it's not like Krishna's not in their heart, and it's not like the process of bhakti can't inspire them, and I have to be the one responsible for everyone's liberation. It's not like that. That we have to understand. Okay. Looks like it's time to end class. We have Guru Puja.
We'll wait for the conch shell, so we can keep, if he has a question, we can take it into the conch shell.
Okay.
Is losing determination in your faith in the holy name an offense, nam aparad, because
Yeah.
don't have faith?
If I fail a lot, I can lose faith in the holy name, because then I think it doesn't work. What didn't work was the way I took it. So I have to make a distinction. So I have faith in the process, faith in the holy name. And perhaps I'm not executing it properly, and perhaps I just need to be more patient. And it's going to take more time. We're all, dirty pots with burnt rice take longer to clean. And then you have the whole comparison. Well, he's doing like this. He was a sannyasi in his last life. You know, a brahmachari for 400 lives before that. And this is, you know, your first time around in bhakti. So it could be, right? So you don't want to like compete with someone else. You want to compete with yourself. You just want to be better than you were yesterday. And you want to deal with yourself in a way you can remain enthusiastic. Right? So faith in the holy name is important. The holy name is everything. I may be struggling, but I know the holy name can purify me. I just have to take it every day, consistently, and avoid offenses as best I can. Everything will be good. That Prabhupada wanted us. He wanted us to have that patience. Because you know, if we didn't have it, then you lose your enthusiasm. And once you lose your enthusiasm, that's it. It's over. Okay. There's three things. There's faith, enthusiasm, and patience. There's three in one verse. And Prabhupada said, enthusiasm doesn't work without patience and faith. They all get synergistic. They have to work together. Quite interesting, right? I'm enthusiastic. Yeah. You know, and I give up my enthusiasm in 3 months because I didn't get the result I wanted because I lacked patience. Or I lost faith in the process. I didn't see the results, so I lose faith. The holy name doesn't work. It works on everybody. It doesn't work on me. Some people just think I'm too forward. It's not true.
Okay.
All right. Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Premanandi.
Mahatma Prabhu ki. I'll give you all darshan.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for attending the class. Keep failing. It's normal.
Oh.
Keep attending class every day. Hare Krishna. Nice to see you all. Bhakta Will Prabhu, Krishna Daya, Bhima Prabhu, and his furry army. How many mice today, Bhima Prabhu?
2 mice, and they both saw the deities.
I couldn't hear that.
Two mice today, and they both saw the deities.
Good. Don't forget to initiate them before letting them go. Okay. Kavita, good morning. William Prabhu, Jamuna Jaya. Yeah, I saw Jamuna Jaya in person. I'll be with you. Vrajras Das, Yogeshwari, Suzanne, Isabel, Isa Spirit Soul, Prema Vinodini Vinisha, and Kyogi of Harlem. Vrajras, yes. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Stop it.
Okay. Stop it. All right. Hare Krishna. I'm